Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to Red, White, and Bills. We got to move on from that last week. I know it's hard. It's extremely hard to do so, but we got a winnable game at home in the home opener against the Las Vegas Raiders, who have some playmakers. So I did watch the All-22 a little bit, about 3/4 of it for the Raiders-Broncos game. But I got a really good friend, played college football, a great friend of mine since we were young, who's a big diehard Raiders fan. So I said, hey, I didn't get to catch the game in live action. What were the strengths you saw in week one? And what were the weaknesses you saw in week one? So before we get into the pregame analysis, I'm going to read you what he said. He said the strengths, Max Crosby. Wide receivers are tough to cover. However, Myers might be out with concussion, which I think he is. O-line had a great game in both run and pass blocking. Weaknesses, secondary is suspect. No pass rush outside of Crosby. Josh Jacobs looked a little bit rusty, and the defense overall did not look too good. And I take everything that my friend said to the absolute value, because what reason does he have to lie to me? And he's a great football mind and an unbiased grader of his team. So when I watched the All-22, basically everything checked out to what he said. So that's the great part about the All-22. People have opinions, you watch them, and then you see how it unfolds. So let's dive into it. What do the Bills need to do to get finally in the win column after that horrible week one debacle? Well, first and foremost, be smart with the football. Mainly Josh Allen, but everybody, running backs, receivers, be smart. Overall, just be smart in general. Offensive line, defensive line, everybody needs to be smart. No dumb self-inflicting penalties. Don't put the ball in harm's way. Go down if you need to go down, Josh. Don't throw in double coverage when there's people open underneath, Josh. When the offensive line is giving you nothing but time, don't just chuck it deep, Josh. Be smart with the football, and we can win this game. Next, I want a repeat showing from the offensive line and the defensive line. A lot of people still to this point are giving the offensive line the credit they deserve for the performance they had against the New Jersey Jets. And like I said, when you watch the tape, and if you watch my analysis of the tape, I thought we had a pretty good offensive line. They gave Josh nothing but time. On those turnovers, Josh had nothing but time. And for the most part of the day, you're going to lose reps. Even the Eagles' offensive line loses some reps, and they're the best in football, or they were last year. But regardless, the best offensive line in football loses reps, okay? So if you're judging the Bills' offensive line after a couple bad reps or a couple sacks, which if you watched, you saw 3 of them out of the 5 were Josh's fault and could have been avoided, but they weren't. And even as bad as Spencer Brown was, that first sack that Josh took was completely on Josh because he took a 3-step drop, which means the ball has to come out immediately. And then Josh pump faked 45 times and they got sacked. So even though Torrance and Brown got blown up that play, that was on Josh and it was his fault because he didn't do what he was supposed to do. So I encourage everybody to watch it again. If you don't want to listen to me, which is fine because everyone has their own opinion, just give it another thought. Just understand also who we played and who we were last year as an offensive line unit. And if anything, this should be encouraging going forward. And what I mean by I want a repeat showing is I want them to continue to build off what they did last week. I thought they did a pretty good job. And against a less stout Raiders defensive line, minus Max Crosby, I expect a very good showing from them. Defensive line, as my friend said and as the tape showed, the Raiders offensive line did pretty good. They weren't that great last year in the beginning, but then they ended up being the 10th best offensive line as far as rating goes. And I think the weakness on their offensive line is Greg Van Roten, and their strong side is the left side with Miller and Parham. That's who I noticed the most, and that's also who my friend confirmed were their best linemen, is left tackle and left guard. It was interesting. They often, in the red zone especially, they had 6 offensive line heavy package. But the weird thing is usually when you see a heavy package, it's for running plays. But there was a couple where they had 6 pass blocking. And I mean, I've been playing football and watching the game for a long time, and I had never seen that. And I was just like, is that even legal to have 6 offensive linemen blocking for pass protection? But they, they went heavy in the red zone, and that's going to be a big test for our defensive line. They had a great showing last week, but this is a much better offensive line than what the Jets had, and we know how bad they were. Excuse me. Contain Max Crosby, Mad Max Crosby, one of my favorite players in the league. Um, there's no stopping him. Absolutely not. You can't stop this guy. You can only hope to contain him, and he goes the left and right side, throughout the game. However, I think if I was the Raiders defensive coordinator, I would be putting him on Spencer Brown every single time, and he could have his best game of his career. However, that's when our offensive coordinator needs to come in and help Spencer Brown out, because we know he's not going to win one-on-ones with Max Crosby, and that's just not trying to be rude to the guy, but not many people win one-on-ones with Max Crosby. When I was watching that film, Mike McClinchy was the guy that a lot of us, especially on Nickel City Mafia, our group, we were high on McClinchy. However, his price range was out of our reach. He's supposed to be a pretty good tackle. I mean, the 49ers let him go. He signed a big contract with the Broncos, and he got worked for the 3/4 of the time that I watched. I didn't finish the game, but Max Crosby got worked him pretty good. And even in the run game, Max is great. Pass game, especially, one of the best edge rushers in the league. He is definitely scary, and thinking about him going against Brown one-on-one bothers me a lot. And lastly, for what the Bills need to do to win, is have another wide receiver step up. I mean, this whole offseason, all I heard was, Gabe's going to be great this year. Gabe's going to come out, be that reliable number 2 because he doesn't have an ankle injury anymore. And I love Gabe Davis. I love Gabe Davis since we drafted him. But since he's been in the number 2 role, he has been, disappointing in my opinion. Doesn't mean I don't think he can be better. Oh, man, I got the hiccups. Excuse me. However, I was expecting a lot more from him against the Jets because he didn't have the ankle injury. Because last year, I understood that. You play against a great defense and you had an ankle injury. It's got to be hard. But he didn't have that ankle injury. You could say Josh didn't look his way, but I mean, maybe he didn't trust that he could do anything. Maybe he didn't trust that he could get open. Maybe he wasn't open as much as people think. Again, watching the tape, someone was open every play. Sometimes it's hard to see see numbers on the plays, but he's probably open a few times. But Josh must not have trusted to throw him the football, and that's got to be fixed. And in this game, yeah, they got a suspect secondary, but someone else besides Diggs just has to keep stepping up, whether it's Kincaid, whether it's Hardy. They got Hardy involved early, which I like to see. Maybe we'll see some of that too. But another wide receiver or pass catcher in general needs to step up, whether it's running back or tight end or receiver. Somebody has to help, because you can't just go with one receiver the whole year like we've been doing. It's not a recipe for success. Key Raiders players, obviously Max Crosby, one of the best edge rushers in the whole NFL, a nightmare for everybody. He's just diabolical. He's an absolute savage. I always use the word psychotic in a great way in football. I'm not talking about his off the field. I'm talking about on the football field. He's just a maniac. And I would love to have him on the Buffalo Bills, man. Like, imagine Von Miller and Max Crosby in the same defensive line. Oh my God. That's the best defensive line in the NFL. And I'm sure he's gonna make some plays. He's gonna get some pressures. So hopefully Brown gets help, and hopefully Brown can prove to us that this hasn't been a wasted 3 years, which is leaning towards that. Devontae Adams, obviously, probably one of the best receivers, the best, if not top 3 best receiver in the NFL still. One of the best route runners in the NFL. Great pass catcher. He has a better chemistry with Derek Carr than Jimmy Garoppolo, but don't let that last week fool you, because the Broncos secondary is extraordinary. And yeah, he had a few catches, but it was low and in a Devontae Adams kind of game. So don't expect him to get 6 catches for 50 yards like he did last week. Expect him to be a bigger part in this game. And then Josh Jacobs, as rusty as he said, Jacobs himself said he was rusty, and as well as my friend, don't expect him to be rusty in this game either because we saw how we tackle. You could put that into what the Bills need to do to win is actually tackle, but they've never tackled. It's been 7 years under McDermott, and they've never been a good tackling team, and that's the problem. I like I said in the film study, I don't think it's the run defensive scheme. I think it's just the D backs are soft at tackling and they're scared. That's I got some notes that I took from the film that I'm going to get into in a minute. But Josh Jacobs, man, if you treat him like you treated Breece Hall, he could run 200 yards on us, and it's going to be a long day. Before I get into the Bills that need to step up, which most of them will probably be obvious, here's what I got from my film study, and I write like crap, so it's going to be hard to read this. They did a lot of pre-snap motion, which is obvious with Jimmy Garoppolo. I didn't see anything telling when they were doing motion, but a lot of pre-snap motion. Brown needs help with Max Crosby. That was my, second thing I wrote. They were really good in run fill. So linebackers and defensive line. Defensive line isn't great besides Max Crosby, but they filled the gaps well, and the linebackers, finished the job in the run game. So it's gonna be interesting in that point. DBs may be suspect, but they love the tackle. They wrapped up. They hit hard. They didn't have any of that weak arm tackling BS that we always do. And I was like, can we get DBs like that, please? Like, wow, this is a night and day difference. Left guard is the best on the team for the linemen, and my friend confirmed. Left side of the line is the strong side, which my friend also confirmed. I mentioned how they played with 6 linemen in a heavy package, mainly in the red zone, but that's also a thing you have to look out for because if you got 6 offensive linemen guarding in a run blocking scheme for Josh Jacobs, and we're a bad tackling team, the defensive line can get swallowed up pretty easily. 6-on-4, and then we have weak tackling DBs, so this could get really ugly really quick if we don't get out firing. And then also Broncos missed a field goal and an extra point, so they technically could have won that game. But as far as I'm not gonna take a win away from somebody. Just wanted to put that out there that even though they got the win, the Broncos did leave some points out there, and hopefully we don't have to do the same thing. Finally, Bills that need to step up. Gabe Davis, not only because we need someone else, but because I want to see him succeed. I love Gabe Davis. He's strong. He's physical. And if we can unlock Gabe Davis to true potential, not what he was last year, this will be a very scary offense. Spencer Brown, it's going to be a given every single week until he proves me otherwise, especially this first 4 weeks is going to be very difficult. Josh Allen, I mean, you can't be worse than I'm not even going to say that because I guess it's possible. You could be worse than what he was last week. But get back to yourself. Be confident. Be that MVP quarterback that we know you can be. I know you want to get everything done on one play, but you don't need to do that to be successful. You've done it before without just doing that. If it's there, maybe take it, but you don't have to do that. We all believe in you. We need you. If we don't have Josh Allen, this doesn't work. And then it's finally James Cook. A lot of like I said, the Raiders were good in run fill last game. I don't know if that's going to be a reoccurring thing, but they'd have improved their defense with I think his name is Divine Diablo or something. He was pretty good last week in his first. I think it was his first year as a starter. And then you got Robert Spillane, who was in Pittsburgh, great linebacker. And then, like I said, if the D-line's filling their gaps like they're supposed to, it's going to be tough. But we got a great offensive line and run blocking from what, that's the hope. Getting a guy like Osiris Torrance, Connor McGovern, should be able to run the ball. However, Cook's vision needs to be elevated this game. He missed a lot of holes last week. That could have gave him more yards. I like what they did with him out of the backfield, but let's keep getting better and better. Let's not just settle for, Cook had a good game. He's great now. Keep trying to get better. But, man, we got to get this win. I'm not saying if you go 0-2, it's the end of the world, but 2 conference losses, it doesn't bode well when you got a team like the Bengals who could potentially lose 2 in a row. And the Chiefs could lose 2 in a row. I'm not saying they're going to, but all 3 of us could potentially lose two in a row, and then we're all in trouble. But let's control our own destiny, not worry about what anyone else does, and let's get this win. Let's build off of the good things last week. Let's fix the bad things last week. That's the key. Fix them. Don't just move past it. Got to fix what the problems were. And then it's a long season, so anything can happen. We can get hot. We can win 7 in a row. We can win 10 in a row. Who knows what could happen? But I have faith in this team. As hard as it was to watch last week, and as stinky as it was to deal with the whole week and go through work and everything, that part's past us. At the time of I'm recording this is Friday night, so you'll probably be watching us Saturday morning, and then we're gonna, Sunday's gonna be a great day. Bring the energy if you're going to the game. They're gonna need it, and like I said, let's not let this get out of hand. Let's get up front quick. Let's not let up. Put the nail in the coffin. Don't just stop at halftime and then fall off a cliff. Don't let Josh Jacobs start cooking. If we got to run 3 linebackers this week and bring Kirksey up, do that. Give up. Let Jimmy Garoppolo beat you like the Broncos wanted to do. They stacked the box. They stopped Jacobs. Jimmy Garoppolo had a pretty decent game, though. 200 yards, 21 for 26. And he had an interception. But make Jimmy Garoppolo beat you. I don't think the Raiders are going to be able to put up 30 points. So if we could get hot and then you stop Jacobs and let Jimmy beat you, we can win this game and we can beat the spread. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. Subscribe if you haven't. We appreciate you. And if you're watching this Saturday morning, don't forget on Nickel City Mafia at 8:30. Brett and I from Go Bills Podcast will be on Red, White, and Ruthless on Nickel City Mafia. So go subscribe to those 2 guys who do great stuff. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Let's go Buffalo. Let's get a win, baby. We need it. Go Bills. Till next time. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.